Hi everyone, I hope you're well. Here we are sipping with Sue on a gorgeous, gorgeous Sunday. I've got everything on ready. Hopefully no children are going to come barging through the door like the last sipping with Sue. But we managed to do a full recovery from that one, and hopefully you still all enjoyed that. So I am fooling around with some of the dates for sipping with Sue just to see what dates work best. I know there's statistics on what times and days are better. For me, I try to do Saturdays, sometimes Sundays. The house is a bit busy just because of having respite workers in, so sometimes a Sunday might be better than a Saturday. But just remember that if you don't catch me live, and I do love having you live because I love hearing what you have to say, and you guys are piping in sometimes with comments, and I do love that piece. But if you can't make it in for a live Sipping with Sue, you can always look at it anytime later, and I will post that for you so that you have it. So welcome everyone. I hope you're doing well. Just waiting to get a few people visiting and online so that we have some followers. So today I wanted to talk about the weather. One of my motivational talks I used to do, which probably sounds a little odd for a title, was shut up and stop talking about the weather. I know it doesn't sound exactly positive, but the outcome was meant to be positive, because what I wanted was for people to really stop talking about the weather in a negative way. And I find it is a daily occurrence that people are constantly talking about the weather. And I have actually a perspective on it now that I'll talk about in a bit around why I think people talk about the weather. And it's actually kind of a positive perspective. But for me, and I've got a few notes here if you don't mind me just looking at them, because that's kind of my style. I like to prep before we do a Sipping with Sue and then kind of go with the flow while we're here. I decided to talk about the weather because I do believe that so many of us are really focused on the weather. I mean, the weather is a big part of our lives, and depending where we live geographically, the weather is a huge part of our lives. And I'd love to hear from you, those of you that are viewing. I see we have a few viewers here live, so thank you for joining us. I'd love to hear where you're from and what the weather is looking like today for you. So I'll start because the weather here is amazing actually today. Mind you, it is cold. That's just a fact, not being negative. It's cold, but the weather is, the sun is just beaming in and gorgeous. I stood in our dining room and I just absorbed that sun today because we have missed the sun. I mean, we have had a winter, but it's been actually an amazing winter. But I just stood there and absorbed that sun, almost like cats do. Do you ever watch a cat sitting in the sun and they're all stretched out like they're in a yoga pose and they're just absorbing that sun and loving it, right? Like I'm just almost in envy of cats when you see them doing that. So that's great. So today my Sipping with Sue, because I don't want to forget to sip, because I always do, of course, is my new mug that I purchased. It says I'm freaking cold and loving it. So even if we're cold and we're not loving it, let's just tell ourselves we're loving it, right? Because it's always short term, right? So let me do a little sip of the coffee. Drinking a lot of caffeine these days to stay awake. So anyway, would love to hear from you. Who's out there, and who would love to tell me what the weather's like in your place where you're at? I would love to hear. I don't know why somehow it just paused for some reason. Not sure what happened there. Apologies for that. One thing that I feel blessed about, if we're going to talk about the weather, and I find most people talk about the weather in a really negative way. That's what I find is, oh, it's sunny, it's too hot, it's too cold, oh, it's been raining for days. And I know that the weather does affect us. Like I get that. It can affect our moods. Obviously, in countries like ours, here in Ontario, where we have long winters and it may be more gray. We have things like seasonal affective disorder, which are absolutely real and affect people. So I understand that the weather affects people. I just think my overall focus is the more negative we are about things in general, the more negative our life is going to be or appear, or things that we look at are going to be more negative. So that's kind of the angle that I'm always coming at in terms of where we're at. So for me, I love that we have the 4 seasons, right? We have fall, we have winter, we have spring, we have summer. I love that we can experience all of those seasons. The other thing that I like is that the perspective. I mean, I think where we live, I don't know where everybody else is from. Hi, Joy. Thanks for joining us. Always great to have you. I think where we live, the good news is, and the perspective we need to have on the weather, is that our weather is pretty good. Like, if you look even here, right, there's for us, no earthquakes. I mean, we have the odd small tornado, but nothing really earth-shattering or impacting. If you look around the world globally, there are some major weather patterns that affect and ruin lives, really. So I do feel really blessed that we have really good weather. But it's always funny, even though I have that perspective, not everybody else has that perspective. Hi, Shirley McCoy. Happy Sunday to you. Glad to have you join us. Not everybody has that perspective of what the weather's like. So, you know, this summer, we had an amazing summer. Starting from May, really, our weather was phenomenal all the way to really October. And then we've had a really light winter. And now I can see the sun is staying out longer and the days are lasting longer. And I can see the spring on the horizon. And I'm excited about summer coming already. I know, I just go there like automatically. I'm a beach girl and sun girl. So I go there automatically, and I love that. I love that we have all the seasons, and I think it's important to appreciate the weather that we have. Hi, Sarah Wilson. Good morning. Good morning to you too. So I love that about the weather, that we have 4 seasons, and I'd love to hear from you. What do you appreciate about our weather? You may be coming from a different country or somewhere else. I'd love to hear what you love about the weather, just to keep that positivity going. And while we're doing that, I'm just going to take a boo at my notes and make sure I've got everything going here that I wanted to talk about. So what do you love about the weather? What do you love? What's your favorite season? Do you have 4 seasons? Do you have 2 seasons? What do you have? I always thought too, I would love to honestly just live somewhere like California, because it's like sunny all the time. I just amazing. I would love to wake up to the sun every day, right? That would be amazing. The other piece, while I'm waiting to hear from everybody, because we do have a few viewers on, is even when the weather may not be favorable for us, what can we find that's positive about it? So, you know, often I'll hear people, like, I'll go grocery shopping, I don't even know these people, and they're like, oh, it's raining out, it's nasty, and I'll be thinking in my head, well, you know what? The rain is a good thing, right? With the rain comes greener grass, comes, you know, bushes and trees and flowers and daffodils and tulips growing. So that is a really, 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 really good thing. So I always try to come with that perspective. You know, when it's the first snowfall, oh my gosh, I just love that. The first light snowfall and the kids are excited. You know, that's amazing, right? So I love that piece. Sarah, I'm just reading here. I should really have my glasses on. Waking up with the sun on my morning runs. I know you do a lot of running. You're a true inspiration. One day maybe I'll run with you, but I'll probably be following far behind you because I know you're a pro at it. I think that's great that you can appreciate that on your morning runs. And Joy likes just when she wakes up, you know, to experience that and look out the window and, you know, sort of see around what's happening with the weather. That's the first thing I do, is I look out the window to see what's happening with the weather. So I love that piece. So what was I talking about? That happens to me. I get on a rampage and then I forget what I was talking about. Welcome to 49 and going through menopause. Yes, the memory is fading, but that's okay. We can do something about that, right? There's always an alternative. But honestly, that is so what's happening. So I love that piece. So the rain, the spring, I love the fall. Oh my gosh, I just love the fall, and I love the fall weather. A little bit chillier, makes you a little cozier, want to get some warm clothes on, have a tea, make some soup, make some chili. I love that. I love that about fall weather. Leaves falling, you know, the smell of the soil, you know, I love all of that piece around the weather. So what is it that you love? What do you love about the weather? With spring coming up, there's so many things to love. I love that I can hear the birds chirping outside. I love all of that. It's just really amazing. So for a long time, I was really bothered by people talking about the weather and talking about it in such a negative way. Wherever I go, in the elevator, you know, grocery store, wherever I'd go, people would just start talking about the weather. And then I thought, and I used to get a little bit upset about it because I'd be like, wow, everybody's being so negative about the weather and our weather's not that bad. What's the deal? So then I twisted my thinking, my favorite saying by Dr. Wayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And again, for some reason, it keeps, Facebook Live keeps checking out on me and coming back. So I'm here. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, I would hear people talking and complaining about the weather, no matter where I went. And then I thought, okay, Sue, change your thinking, right? Like that favorite saying of yours by Dr. Wayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I started to realize that the weather was a commonality. And it was actually a link that brought people together. Right? So, I may be at the grocery store and not know that person, but I was able to connect with somebody. And even though it might have been a negative conversation about the weather, it was a conversation and it was a human connection. So I do think that talking about the weather can be a really good thing. But again, if we can try to keep it just a little bit more positive, because again, I believe what we're projecting out there in the world, if it's negative, kind of has this ripple effect. But I do think now, it is a good thing. We go into an elevator, it's a little awkward, we don't know anybody, and someone starts talking about the weather 9 times out of 10. But it starts a conversation, and then it's, by the time people are getting off the elevator, it's like, have a great day, nice to talk to you. So there is some positives that come out of that, and I've had to sort of change my perspective around it. So I don't want us to stop talking about the weather, because I do think it engages people, and it has people, even random strangers, coming together and talking about things. What do we have here? Joy, I can help you. Been there, done that, thinking I'm the oldest here at 57. Oh yeah, she's talking about my memory. Oh no, you're still young, Joy. We're still young. We're good. Yeah, the big 50s coming up next year, but that's okay. I'm ready to celebrate, and I'm excited about that. I don't think I'd want to be any younger. I've done all that time, and I'm good with where I am. So I think we're good. So anyway, yeah, so that's kind of my perspective on the weather. And so I guess what I'm asking, I kind of came up with this, is that we all become positive weather endorsers. So let's not stop talking about the weather, because I don't think we will. I think it's a common thing, and even I do. I have to say, when we're out, I mention the weather to people, but oh, isn't it gorgeous, or don't you love it? It's not always the response I get back. People aren't always on the same page with me, and that's okay. But I think we shouldn't stop talking about it, because I think it does bring people together, and engages people in conversations, especially strangers, and that's a positive thing. That's a good thing for sure. I know that the weather does affect our moods. I guess we have to decide how we're going to deal with that. Can we deal with that in a positive way when the weather does affect our moods? I mean, that is a fact, and that is a reality. But what can we do about that? And can we embrace those moments? So it's been raining out for 3 days and we're not happy about it. Let's get our cozy pajamas on if we can. If it's the weekend, grab tea and just embrace those moments, right? And embrace that time, and just recognize that we need that weather for our world to be a better place, right? We need that rain, we need that snow. It's all part of the natural progression of things. So I got a few sticky notes here. So again, I would love you to be a positive weather endorser, PWE. So just get out there, and when you're talking to people, just be really positive about how the weather's going. What are your thoughts on this conversation around the weather? Have you ever thought that to yourself? Wow, everybody's so negative about the weather. Or do you hear people talking and saying positive things about the weather? And do you find that's a commonality, that people do talk quite a bit about the weather? I'd love to hear from you. So please reach out. I see we've got quite a few viewers. Great, thanks. I see we have another one joining us. What is it? What is it about the weather that you love? And do you notice people talking about the weather quite a bit? Love to hear from you. Anybody? Anybody out there? And also, what do you love about the weather? Is there something really wonderful that you love about the weather? For me, it's the sun. It's the sun. Last summer, my daughter was in hospital for 3 months, and that was a tough time for many reasons, obviously, because she was in there. But I love the summer. The summer is like, I just absorb the sun. Love the vitamin D. We know that increases serotonin. We know it's all good. And I was in the hospital, like stuck in a room for 24/7. So I made it a point to get out in the sun and just enjoy that weather as much as I could, even though I was in that sort of situation, which is a bit negative. We've got a few people speaking here, which is great. We need sun. Yes, Joy, I agree. The sun does lighten everybody's moods. I'm just checking here to make sure I haven't missed anything. Complaining about the weather is a Canadian pastime. I guess it could be, right? Or an epidemic, maybe, possibly, for sure, absolutely. So that's great. Okay, so good. We have a few people chiming in. Love the fall and spring. Changing. Yeah, it's just a gorgeous time. It's actually an incredible time when you think about it, especially if you're in the city, you see it, but not as much if you're driving out into the country. Meg, isn't that amazing? If you're going up north or you're going somewhere into the country and the leaves changing is phenomenal. And it means change, right? Actually, that really represents change, that season of fall, that change is coming, right? So I do love that. Chirping birds, always a good thing, right? It means that we're all alive and life is alive, and that's a really good thing for sure. Absolutely. I love that. Anything else? What else do I have in my little sticky notes here? Any more thoughts on the conversation? Anything you want to share? Anybody? So I guess the challenge is, and I'm going to put it out there for everybody, the challenge I'm going to put out there is, or just for something to become more self-aware, and I've just written it down here, is to really notice this week, to be really aware of how long you go without complaining about the weather. Because in the past, years ago, I would be a weather complainer, and I've sort of tried to shift my thinking. So I want you to look at that as a challenge this week. How long do you actually go without complaining about the weather, starting now? Okay. And did you catch yourself? And did you maybe change it and turn it around? Because the thing is, when in the world, if we say negative things or we're negative, we always have the option of turning it around, right? It's never too late. So that's the good news, right? I'm trying to kind of generalize it to general society. And how many times this week did you hear people complaining about the weather? And were you able to be a positive enforcer with the weather and change it around? So I'd love to hear from you. So just to recap, how long did you go without complaining starting just a few minutes ago? Did you catch yourself? Did you turn it around? Because with every negative, we can always turn it around. And how many times did you hear people complaining about the weather, and were you able to change that conversation around? So I would love to hear from you. So midweek, I'm going to touch base with all of you and just say, hey, just a follow up from the Sipping with Sue. Did anybody notice these things that I had mentioned with the Sipping with Sue on Sunday? So a couple things. I always like to sort of end with a few quotes that I tried to make kind of weather related. That looks like a bunny rabbit. Silly. So here's one from the Seize the Day calendar. It was actually for yesterday. Be open to possibility. So that's in life in general. Be open to possibility, and be open to changing your mindset around talking more positively about the things around you. And maybe the weather is one of those, right? Maybe that's possible. So that's that one. And then I took from my book, every day I take from this Dr. Wayne Dyer, Your Ultimate Calling. And you can go day by day, but I actually take the book and I just say, okay, universe, show me what I need to know for today. What's my message? And I opened it up and I see what's in the book. And so this is the message that came today. Thoughts themselves are an energy, and it is vital to realize that you need to work on not holding on to the ones that will weaken you. So negative thoughts on a whole will weaken us, weaken our environment around us. So again, that's why I'm talking so much about the weather. I know it sounds really silly maybe to some of us, but if we're talking negatively, it's just one more negative thing we're doing in our life. So if we keep that positive, and then we'll continue to be positive about the different things in our life if we can, right? So again, that's the message from Dr. Wayne Dyer. And then I found one more message from a lovely, lovely journal that I don't want to write in because it's so beautiful, that I got from a group of ladies that I love, that are very supportive in my group. Think happy and be happy, art, inspiration, and joy. So it's sort of like a journal and a calendar. And this one says, surely it is in the everyday things around us that the beauty of life lies. So what that really means is open our eyes, look to the beauty. If we wake up tomorrow and it's snowing, hopefully not, touch wood, but if it's snowing tomorrow and blizzardy, what are we going to find that's the positive in that? Well, and I can tell you right now what I would find. That it's snowing and I'm outside, and yes, it's a fact, it's cold, but guess what? That means I'm alive because I can feel that cold, and it's my blood going, and I got to put the heat on in the car, and that's all a good thing because it just means I'm alive and well. So that's good, right? Because if I was dead, I wouldn't feel all that weather. So let's appreciate, live in the moment, and enjoy those moments as much as we can, right? Shirley, it's shining and it's a beautiful day and it's sunny. It absolutely is. Yes, you're right. You're not too far away from us, Shirley. Yeah, so anyway, that's wonderful. Thank you. I've got a few little happy faces and those great little things coming across the screen. Thank you so much. Hi, Tracy. Welcome. Great to see you. And Shirley's grateful for every day. Absolutely. We have to be grateful for every single day for sure. Most important. Absolutely. So I think that is it. So I'd like to go out. I'm going to open up the curtains downstairs, bring that sun in, and I will touch base with everybody about midweek just to see if you were able to follow up and catch yourself and see who's talking about the weather out there. Just see if you become a little more aware of it. And is it positive talk? Hopefully it is. And if it's not and it's negative talk, can you switch it around, right? Let's see. For sure. Let's see, Sarah. I need to do a better job of not complaining about things that are beyond my control. That's a really valid point, actually, because the weather is beyond our control, right? We are just waiting here every day to see how it's going to be. And you're absolutely right. That is one of the things that we cannot control is the weather, right? There's no channel button. There's no push button. There's nobody I can call to say, hey, can you get rid of the rain? Can we have some sun? So you're right. I think it's a work in progress for all of us, absolutely, to not be complaining about it. But again, let's just remember that I do believe those conversations we have do bring people together, and there is that commonality. So I think the weather does bring us together, and it creates a commonality amongst people, and then we're able to talk about things and connect with others. So that is a really good thing at the end of the day. So I'm not saying that talking about the weather is a bad thing. I just think we need to watch our approach and how our thinking around all of that. Absolutely. So I'm going to say cheers. Hopefully you're sipping on something more exciting than my coffee, but I need the coffee to get through the day. And I'd love to hear from you just to see if there's any Sipping with Suze that you'd love to talk about. Is there anything you'd like me to talk about? And eventually I'm hoping to get some people maybe, on the Sipping with Suze so that we can have some conversations about other things. Thanks, Shirley. You're always a positive inspiration. I've learned to avoid toxic people in my life. We are all here so much to be truly thankful for. I agree. We have so many things to be thankful for, which is great. So I'd love to cheers out. With the coffee, and hopefully you're drinking something. I'd love to hear eventually what you guys are sipping on, and I always appreciate people following, and please spread the news with Sipping with Sue, and I will continue to do these. I think Sunday is going to be the day. I've struggled with finding the right day, but I think Sunday around noon will be the day that I'm going to do the Sipping with Suze. But if you can't watch them live, by all means, you'll be watching later, and I appreciate you sharing them as well. Thanks, Sarah. You have a great day, and yeah, I will enjoy the sunshine. You too. Shirley sipping on a bulletproof coffee. Okay, good. That's some strong stuff there, girl. You do it. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Take care, and we'll talk to you later.